Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Aurovilians. Today, it is an honor to have Anandi Zhang with us. Namaste.
Namaste.
Anandi, tell me how you first heard of Sri Aurobindo and Mother. In a book, through a person, how did it happen?
By chance, on my travel to India,
And when was that? What year?
2014,
And traveling from where?
from China. So I was born and grew up in China. I worked for some years and then I started to be a freelance translator. And then I traveled to many places around the country and to a few other countries.
And other countries?
Yes, including Thailand, Indonesia, South Africa, Britain, etc.
Oh my God.
Then it has been a dream for me and for many people to travel around the world.
Oh yes.
Yes, and I had that dream, and at one point I felt I'm ready for a worldwide travel.
Oh,
And so which place to start with? So I chose India.
to begin with.
To begin with
I
a
see.
worldwide travel in
Right.
2014. After spending the Chinese New Year, I got myself prepared and I landed in Mumbai in an Indian friend's home with whom I had contact before through emails and work exchanges.
Ah,
So I stayed in their home for half a month. Tried all kinds of Indian cuisine
yes.
and went to temples, markets. And in their home, there is a big photo of Raman Maharshi. And their whole family, including their father-in-law, are disciples of Raman Maharshi. So at the end of that stay, they said, you must go to Tiruvannamalai.
Ah, yes. Of
So they
course.
booked a place for me in the guest house there. And I traveled alone to Tiruvannamalai, where I stayed for 1 week. I climbed the mountain and stayed in the ashram,
Went into the cave.
went into the cave and did all that. And then one day I felt there was some free time for me. So how to spend that free time? And normally I like to read. So I went to the round white building behind, which is the library there, ashram library. I went inside and tried to look for a small book that I can read for 1 or 2 hours. There were many shelves of books, and I found one, and I can still very vividly remember the name of the booklet. It's called The Biography of the Mother. I opened the book and read about this experiment of Auroville, that is human unity in diversity. And then I came straight to Auroville.
That was it.
That was it.
Yes. You know that Sri Aurobindo called Ramana Maharshi a spiritual Hercules.
Hercules, what does it mean?
Hercules is the great
The great one.
warrior.
Okay.
Yes.
But before that, before reading that book, I had never heard of Auroville, never heard of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. So I came, stayed for 1 week in Central Guest House, and it felt clear to me that there is something there which was special, that I need to come back to stay longer. So next year in 2015, I came back and stayed for 1 month in transformation.
In transformation.
Yeah, the Samatha guest house right now, in the round rooms. And then I started to volunteer in Machamandik, picking the fallen leaves around the entrance area. I enjoyed it a lot. And then I went away, and somehow next year I felt I was fully prepared to come and join Auroville. So in September 2016, I came. And started the process. In 2017, I came back again with an entry visa. So now I'm 3 years here without leaving Auroville for summer or for other things.
How much of Sri Aurobindo and Mother did you read or while you were in Auroville? I take it their books were available.
Yes, I read the Satprem's book,
The Adventure of Consciousness.
The Adventure of Consciousness, and some questions and answers from the Mother, some short stories, what they have written on China, Chinese people, and Mother's agenda, some of them Savitri, not the whole book, but some of it passages, and the compilation of Mother's words on Auroville.
Yes.
The 2-volume
Gilles.
That Gilles had
And Gilles
compiled.
and I will be doing a whole series starting probably tomorrow or Monday.
Okay.
Long series with Gilles.
Okay. And there are some compilations. For example, Integral Healing. And a few other small booklets on, for example, youth, on dreams, on mantra. So on different topics I have read.
And what do you feel at this point might be your direction in life? What kind of work at the Matrimandir, or are you interested in certain of these areas that you've read about? Healing, etc.
I would say I have an interest in all of them.
In all of them, wonderful.
Yes, because Sri Aurobindo says all life is yoga.
Yes.
But obviously for me, all life has not yet turned into a yoga.
Okay.
Yes, it's in a process. But a very interesting beginning. My focus in future would be reading more, putting more of them into practice, really fully understanding them and embodying more and more, and translating them, some of the texts, into the Chinese language, because Mother once gave a message to the Sri Aurobindo kind of organization that was established in Hong Kong, to say, let the eternal light dawn on the eastern horizon. Hu Shu, the ashramite.
I knew him.
You knew him. He stayed for 27 years in ashram.
Yes.
And translated most of Mother and Sri Aurobindo's works, major works, into Chinese. And there are some other works that haven't been translated. Some that relates to, for example, Auroville. There are Mother's short stories, plays, Savitri. A lot of still work is yet to be done.
And
So
you said you were a translator.
I was a translator for some years before.
What did you translate? What languages?
English into Chinese.
English into Chinese. This
So,
is marvelous.
yes.
Wonderful. Could you talk a little bit with us about your experience of China? Whatever you would like to say.
China is a land that have the same promise of unity in diversity. In fact, one of the slogan I would say that we often use is unity in diversity. The same thing in the Chinese language. We call it 和而不同. 和 harmony, 而 means and, whereas 不同 means different. So harmony, there is harmony but different. So it is unity in diversity in essence. And if you look at the essence of the Chinese culture, classical, ancient Chinese culture that have been somehow maintained up till now, it is that the same kind of alignment of heaven, earth, and man, harmony not only within the mini universe that each being is, but with the outer larger universe, kind of mirroring each other. And in ancient China, there was a text on what unified world can look like. And it has been kind of the text that children recite.
Now, I'm told from people who have recently visited China that there is fear in the people. Is that correct?
I would say the whole world, much of the whole world is now has certain fears, including Auroville, which is a place where all the difficulties concentrate. In China, I haven't been in China for 3 years, so I don't know. There, I would say, a lot of different trends, movements, forces are there. There are fears of the basic things that we need. For example, clean air.
Yes.
Healthy food.
Yes.
And the basic things. Sometimes because of the need for modernization, for material progress, the integral other aspects need to be. I think it is in a process of finding its own clarity, transforming itself to see it's not only the economy alone that matters.
Yes, of course.
And there are many different aspects to China, which I would say on a person who has never been to China or have only visited a few times cannot fully understand or appreciate or be able to really help contribute to its progress. One interesting joke is of people who have been in China like with deep contacts, and they say people who come to China in the first 2-3 years, they really wanted to write about China. Write a book, write a report, tell stories about China. After spending time in China for 10 years, they became more silent.
Interesting.
They become part of the kind of the beauty, the glory of China, also its imperfections.
Can you tell me anything horticulturally about the land and the species of plants? I understand China has so great a wealth.
It's such diverse. We have such diverse plants and animal species.
Are they being preserved?
I don't fully know much about this this topic, so I would say from my own experience of traveling around, there may be some places that have been carelessly kind of damaged, not very much well cared for, but now there is a rethinking the social society, and people are rethinking, relooking at how we coexist well, harmoniously with the nature. Of course, that happens. And in places where there is a lot of natural diversity, it is still there.
Oh.
It's and I would say the Chinese people since ancient times have perhaps discovered the beauty, the use, edible and medicinal use of more plants than other nations in the world.
Agree. Yes.
Yeah, we have ancient classics on the medicinal plants where they were kind of tested and tried.
Now, what did you translate from English to Chinese when you were working as a translator?
Everything that the clients from different fields of work they need, from cultural events, books to, for example, sports. I started to translate 2 years before the 2018 Olympic Games.
Oh.
That was one inspiration for me to go to Beijing and to really to be part of this
That must have
coming big event.
must have been a great experience.
It was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your parents?
My parents were farmers. I was born and grew up on a farm, which is the reason why I can now go back to nature, go back to find my roots in the land, in the soil, in plants, in animals, in finding a way to really see how humans are not the really is really part of nature.
What did your parents farm?
We used to grow rice, wheat, all kinds of beans, over 10 different varieties of fruits, so many greens, vegetables, potatoes, peanuts, and tomatoes. It's a huge diversity, and we used to have a bull to plow the land, plow the fields, have chicken, cats, dogs, ducks.
It sounds like you had a wonderful childhood.
And all the frogs. So it was a countryside lifestyle where we used to have everything that
Yes.
can sustain us.
Now, what did you do when you went to Thailand and these other places?
Sometimes to travel, sometimes to also work. Yeah.
Okay. So how much of the world did you get to see before landing finally in Auroville?
So, in fact, it is a question that I have asked myself many times, because my initial plan was to really do a worldwide travel. There is so much of the world that I haven't seen yet. The reason that has really kept me in Auroville, in spite of all the challenges that I face here, is traveling in the inner world matters as much as traveling in the outer world. And for me, it matters a lot more. So for me, in Auroville, it is a concentrated place where I can, and anybody who is open to it, can travel in the inner world and to perfect the being, to make progress.
I remember when we first met last week on Sunday, And then I asked you to do transformation. You said, that's why I'm here.
Yes, yes.
What are the problems that you have faced in Auroville? Some of them, if you can talk about them. Because people speak to me about all kinds of things,
Yeah.
and everything should be open to everyone.
For me, the difficulties are not so much in the physical environment. Some people find it hard to adapt to the weather, living conditions
Oh, yes.
here, to the poaches, mosquitoes, or some people could have injuries, diseases, various reasons, or financial difficulties that they find they could not sustain themselves here. I have experienced these things as well, but these are not the difficulties that are difficulties for me. I don't find them difficulties. For example, I like the monsoon season. I like the hot summers here. So it's no problem for me. And also mother says if we we are one with the weather, we can actually enjoy it instead of staying away from the sun or the rain. And I find it's a nice way to be enjoyed in the nature.
And you have no problem with the food?
No problem with the food. I like the idli, chapati, dosa, a lot of things. I cook them myself and I eat them in restaurants, in the canteens. So that's no problem. For me, the biggest challenge is the imperfect human nature. In me and in a community which has the highest possible ideal, that even it's beyond the human imagination, I would say.
Absolutely.
Our ideal is so high that when we look at the realities, our own realities, the little details of life, sometimes I find there is so much to improve on. And sometimes the circumstances present themselves. It's just like shining a mirror on myself, on people, on the situations, that it feels like this is exactly opposite to what we aspire for.
Yes.
And of course, there is a reaction sometimes that how can this be? This is untruth, truth, ignorance, light. They all exist here. And I am not fully transformed, but that's my aspiration. So I guess it's the same with a lot of people who have chosen to come and stayed here. And then this is a place where the physical, vital, mental, all the things, they can come up and show in a very sometimes subtle, sometimes very intense ways.
Yes.
And I really get a lot of clarity here that, like people everywhere have found out throughout the ages, that I cannot change the outside world without changing myself. I have no expectation whatsoever of changing the others, changing the circumstances. Without first having this self-reflection, mirroring on what is happening inside me. And this can be, as Aurobindo has said, an ordeal that we need to go through.
Do you come to the ashram?
Yes.
From time to time?
Yes, I do.
And come to the Samadhi?
Yes.
In your experiences and relations with others, have you found Auroville very mixed in its aspiration?
I would say that there's a lot of layers of it's like Auroville is like a diamond, and each of our heart, I feel, is like a diamond with many different facets. And there is the inner light there is the divine light, outer light that can shine upon it, and to reveal its full beauty, then it should not be really kept in the darkness. And I find that when I am in a certain state, I meet with certain situations and certain kinds of people. When I shifted to another state of being, of consciousness, yes, and then I meet with other situations, or I can face a situation, the same situation, in a different way. So that's sometimes even the most unimaginable or difficult situation can amuse me. Can amuse me because it feels like it must somehow be transformed.
And they have asked me to be the chairman for the Macha Mandir
Garden Design Corps.
Garden Design Corps. And I would very much like to work with you in the gardens one day. There will be something so beautiful that we have no idea right now. But you have read what Mother has told me, I'm sure.
Yes, I have read.
Yeah.
And I worked in Botanic Gardens for 1 year, in my newcomer year. I stayed there, worked there.
I see. Wonderful.
Yeah, and what I feel now, what is happening in the Auroville community as a whole, in different aspects of the community, a lot of crises and conflicts are coming up, which is a coming up of the scenes that need to be looked at, reflected on after 50 years of development.
Yes.
And to go for what is true light, life, wealth, and power, which are the 4 gardens that will come soon.
Yes, yes.
I feel there is a correlation with the garden design progress of what is happening in the society, in the community.
Well, you're quite right.
Has a direct correlation with the development of the gardens.
When my wife, Mary Helen, wrote to Mother, when the beginning of the structure started, Mother wrote, the gardens are as important as the Macha Mandir.
Yes.
A powerful statement.
Yeah.
Because we have to create beauty in everything we do. And I feel that you have that feeling of that essential beauty that must be with anything we touch.
I understand the sense of beauty, but to train myself into manifesting that beauty, still there needs to be a process.
Hopefully the gardens will be that. So, what are you looking forward to in the next few years in your life in Auroville? Will you, well, let's just take that for now. What do you see happening in Auroville, the changes in yourself, in others? We know that the government has been involved. Mr. Modi has come and has been very positive about Auroville. What do you see, if anything?
I see Auroville having having a closer connection, interaction with India, the Indian government, with the whole world, what we call the outside world. Perhaps will no longer be the outside world anymore, because people keep coming in and going out, bringing in their energies, talents, contribution, financial contribution, and contribution in different kinds of works, music, many things. And then they also contribute to their difficulties, their challenges, limitations.
Absolutely.
And then bringing out something. back to their places. I would say as Auroville as a kind of going through a process of inhaling and exhaling, and
Inhaling?
inhale and exhale with the entire world in that process. And Auroville itself has many challenges right now on the economic organization and people's relationships. Many challenges which is quite intense sometimes and quite unexpected, or in a way it's natural that it can happen here because it's happening also around the world, which can be mirrored here to be worked on in a concentrated place.
Yes.
Here is an awareness and an intention to work things out. That does not make it easier.
No.
But there is a hope that by working it out, each one involved in the process can have more clarity, more healing for the Auroville itself, and for the effect can ripple out to the entire world. I believe in the next 1 year, 2 years, in the next few years, Auroville will move to a truer Auroville, to its ideal, to the Auroville Charter, to the dream, to be a true Aurovilian, not only in the mental understanding, in the speech, but in the deep alignment in every action.
Wonderful.
That's why we are here anyway. Because if it's not that true, if the text remains in the books, not in our beings, then there is a disparity that our inner being will not be happy about.
Yes.
So that full alignment needs to come gradually.
You know my daughter, Shally?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know Shally?
Yeah, please introduce her one day.
I will one day. She's now in England for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
She's with the central governing group of Auroville.
Mm-hmm.
And she built the high school
Mm.
and ran it for 20 years. So I'd like you to meet her. Anandi, thank you so much for a very enlightening talk and to learn a bit about your aspiration, your experience will help many people who see this video.
Thank you. Thank you very much.